Yo, I'm Bob, into Star Wars, happen to be totally blind since birth, talking about episode 3 of Ahsoka on Disney Plus. Spoilers ahead. If you don't want to get spoiled, I'd watch the episode first if I were you. However, if you just want a recap slash review with spoilers aplenty, then you do you. That's perfectly fine as well. That being said, jumping right in, and you were warned. Episode 3 is called Time to Fly, and I was unprepared for the shortness of this episode this week. I thought that we got quite a lot of meat packed into a 37-minute episode. I mean, Dave Filoni is at the helm, so I wasn't disappointed. And when the episode opens, we get to see Sabine and Hu Yang, and they are training in lightsaber combat. I like Hu Yang's holographic lightsabers as Sabine is attempting to counter him there. I love that action figure in the vintage collection, but that's another video altogether. After the training sequence with Hu Yang finishes, Sabine has to go up against Ahsoka, and we get to see the Boken sabers again. We saw them in Rebels Season 2 when Sabine was training to wield the dark saber. She goes up against Ezra, and they're fighting, I do believe, with Boken sabers there. Now, those were built by Kanan. So we get to see Sabine doing a bit of blind fighting here. So she's got the blast shield down over her eyes, and of course you can't help but think about Luke and the blast remotes in Episode 4 New Hope during this scene. Of course, I thought of Kanan. I tend to wonder if Sabine might have been thinking of Kanan as well. Of course, we don't get to get inside her head. It's not a book. But I was reminded of course, Kanan being blind and trying to relearn how to use the Force or learn it in a new way. But here Sabine is having to depend on her other senses. She's trying her best to reach out. Yeah, do or do not. There is no try. I know. She's doing her best to reach out. And Ahsoka is trying to get her to slow down. I think because Sabine is a Mandalorian. I think she's used to rushing headlong into situations. She is a woman of action. She is ready to go into battle at a moment's notice. And I think for her, it's a bit difficult to slow down and depend on her other senses. She's used to tackling things headlong. I think Sabine is very impatient, and it shows in this scene because Ahsoka is running around. She's like, "Hey, can you hear where I am? I need you to reach out. I need you to focus on my voice, figure out where I am." And she's sitting there, not sitting there, but she's running around poking at Sabine with the Boken, and Sabine is just getting more and more agitated. She wants to rush at this situation headlong, and eventually she does kind of get to where she can do a bit of fencing here. And of course, Ahsoka manages to trip her up, and then the session is over. And Hu Yang, I like how he says, "Not bad, but not good." And that reminds me of Mace Windu from the Episode 5 Revenge of the Sith video game. If you've played that game, sometimes Mace will say, "Not bad, not good either, but not bad." I don't know, I got Revenge of the Sith 2005 video game vibes from Hu Yang in this scene. And who knows, maybe he heard Mace say that on more than one occasion. I love this droid, by the way. Just such a cool character. So yeah, the opening scene had quite a lot going on. I love the training sequence. I love the blind fighting that Sabine was participating in. And after the opening title sequence, we get to see Home One. Speaking of flying, we get to see a Mon Calamari Star Cruiser. We saw it in the premiere episode of Ahsoka. I forgot to mention how much I liked Home One in Return of the Jedi. This is Admiral Akbar's favorite ship, I believe. It's his baby. We saw him in this ship quite a lot in Legends. We saw it numerous times, and I love seeing it on the small screen just as much as I do in books and on the big screen as well. So Hera, she's having to go in and address the Republic's Senate, the new Republic Senate, about Grand Admiral Thrawn, rumors of his return. And when she starts to talk to the Senate, you get the sense that these guys, they don't really care. They are corrupt. Some of them are. I think there's a lot of apathy here. They're enjoying their seats of power. They feel like, well, if we can't see the threat, then it's not really here, and you just want to find Ezra. They just can't be bothered. And this reminds me of how the New Republic fumbled the ball with the Yuuzhan Vong in the Expanded Universe New Jedi Order series. They accused Luke and Leia of making up threats that weren't really there, attempting to unseat them, trying to steal power away from them. And that is very much out of the dark side's playbook. These guys are afraid, I think, of giving up what they've got. They're afraid someone's going to come along and attempt to take what they've got, so they're not really wanting to take the threat seriously. You've got Senator Xiono, and I like seeing this guy here because he, of course, he'll show up later in Star Wars Resistance, but we get to see him in live action here, and he seems to be giving Hera the biggest headache out of the bunch. I like how Mon Mothma is actually wanting to listen to what she has to say, but she can't make decisions right away. She has to confer with the senators, even though Mon Mothma's chancellor. I keep wanting to call her chief of state because I'm used to the chief of state from the Expanded Universe. Even though Mon Mothma is chancellor, she has to, she's got to be checked by everyone else, so she can't just make those split-second decisions. And I think that's really getting on Hera's nerves here. She knows the threat is real, and she lets Xiono know, hey, you were never in the war. You just waited until it was done, and you wanted to see who came out on top. You're not interested in helping anyone. I think Xiono is very ambitious. I think he's probably backed by donors, lobbyists, so maybe sending out a task force isn't within their best interest. So, he's not really wanting to do that. I think in canon, there's not a lot of oversight like there was in Legends. Mon Mothma and Leia were very kick-butt chiefs of state. But here, in canon, after Mon Mothma leaves the office of Chancellor, you've got chancellors that are a bit more corruptible. And there's not really much in the way of monitoring what's going on in terms of what the Empire's doing behind the scenes. People just don't really seem to care. They think the war's over. Whereas in actuality, you have things going on behind the scenes like we saw in Episode 2 of Ahsoka. There were little pockets of Imperial sympathizers on Corellia. And the New Republic doesn't really see the threat right under its nose, very similar to the way it fell in the Expanded Universe. So I kind of like that those two things are lining up here. So we get to see Jason in live action. I wasn't sure when we were going to see him. I heard that he was in, I don't know if they were photos or maybe bits of trailer. I don't think the audio description tracks mentioned him, but I think the young actor does quite a phenomenal job playing Jason. And I know he's younger than the Solo twins, but when he mentioned wanting to be a Jedi like Aunt Sabine, I couldn't help but think of the Young Jedi Knights books from the Expanded Universe. So hopefully we'll see this kid on Ossus at some point at Luke's Jedi Academy. Who knows what they've got planned for Jason's story. I don't think we're going to be seeing much of him in Ahsoka. I think he's going to have a part to play in another story. But I liked that we get to see him. And, I think Chopper, having to watch him is hilarious. I see Chopper as a very grumpy but fun babysitter who probably lets the kid get away with things Hera doesn't know about. I can't wait to see more of that if that is indeed the case. It's Chopper, though. So I think that's probably very much the case. Chopper's kind of a fun uncle slash big brother figure, babysitter kind of type for Jason here. So we get to see Sabine as she's attempting to learn how to use the Force. She's attempting to move a cup. And Ahsoka just makes it look so easy because Ahsoka has had a lifetime of Jedi training. She might even have more natural abilities. It doesn't appear as if it's coming easy to Sabine at all. And I love that. Sabine is a very relatable character because, you know, the Force isn't something that just anybody can pick up and use. I think George Lucas says something in the Making of Return of the Jedi book about how, yes, anybody can use the Force, but it takes a lifetime of training in order to do that. I wish I could get that book on audio or in Braille and read some of these conversations because, yeah, according to George, in the making of, it is something that just anybody can use. I don't know if his mind changed because this was back in, I believe, the 80s when he mentioned that. Who knows if it changed or not? But I think Dave and the other writers are taking this from George's playbook. You know, Sabine is not a Skywalker, so it might not be very easy for her to use at all. I don't even know if we'll be seeing her use it very much in her lifetime. Who knows? She might go the way of folks like Lor San Tekka and Chirrut Imwe. I don't know what they're planning on doing with her. But at one point in time, George did indeed say, yes, anyone can use it, but it takes discipline. It takes a lot of training in order to do this. So if the man said it, I mean, that's just the way it is. I'm sure fans might not like the fact that anybody can use it, but I mean, it's straight out of George's mouth, so I have no idea what's going to happen in terms of Sabine using the Force. I want this to be an ongoing journey for her. I don't want to get to the end of Ahsoka and see her just kind of wielding it willy-nilly. You know, I want it to be something that it takes years and years and years for her to learn how to do. I think that's why I like her character, because she's, like I said, she's relatable, and it is something that she's frustrated with. It's like learning any new skill. It is harder than heck in the beginning, and there are days when you don't want to do it, and you're frustrated with yourself. You snap at other people. You even have Hu Yang, who is programmed by the Order, and he's telling her, hey, you don't have a lot of talent. And Ahsoka calls him out on it, which I love, as they're sitting in the ship there. And he's just telling her, hey, it's my programming. That's what the Order programmed me to say about this kind of stuff. And Ahsoka, she lets him know, well, the Order failed. We need to try something different. And this reminds me of Luke in the expanded universe. After the prequels were written, the writers actually had him research why the Order fell. Because, you know, they had more things to play with after the prequel movies had come out. And, of course, in canon, I think Luke is your rinse and repeat Jedi. He's trying to go by the book. He's trying to go by the text. Whereas here, in the new timeline, I feel like possibly Ahsoka is going to be the one to think, hey, you know, this needs to happen differently this time. Otherwise, we're going to make the same mistakes. So, you know, Ahsoka being a very non-traditional Jedi, she's got different ways of teaching Sabine. She's not just going to tell her, well, you know, you weren't born into the Order. Your midichlorian count's too low. I'm not even going to bother with you. Ahsoka doesn't have that elitist mindset. She knows what it's like to be spurned by folks from the Order. So I think she's a bit more empathetic to Sabine here. And she's very patient with her, even though Sabine is impatient with herself and impatient with Ahsoka too. And so I love this scene here quite a bit. It's one of my favorites in the episode. When we get to Cetos, I had a great time watching the dog fight and the chase scene. So the Eye of Sion is one heck of a hyperspace ring. Of course, I can't help but think of Outbound Flight from the EU books because they were kind of setting out on a mission to explore a distant galaxy, but this is not Outbound Flight at all. This is where my mind goes as the episode was premiering. But these new fighters that attack Ahsoka and the rest of the crew in the shuttle, I wonder what they are. It's August 30th as of this video being recorded, and we don't have a name for these ships yet. The audio description track doesn't really describe them. I know they have front-mounted wings, and that's about it. They don't describe what they look like. Some folks on Twitter tell me that they remind them of World War II era fighter craft. I don't know what these are. We don't have any names for them yet. I don't even know what the shapes are, but they're very evil little craft. I like seeing Marok in action as well as Shin. The audio description track did point out that the squad leaders, Marok and Shin, they've got gold on their paneling, so you can distinguish them between the others. Poor Hu Yang, that one part where he takes a hit and the shuttle is pretty much dead in space. That was a pretty tense scene there. Even during the battle, Ahsoka's attempting to teach Sabine lessons, and Sabine being impatient, she's like, I don't have time to learn lessons right now, I'm trying to shoot these guys down. But that's just Sabine being Sabine. We get to hear Marok speak in this episode. Now his voice is heavily modulated. I don't know who's behind that mask. I think someone on Twitter, as of this video's recording, they keep saying, it's Sam Witwer, it's Sam Witwer. I don't know, because now in Ahsoka Season 1, they're not narrating the credits anymore. So I have to wait until this stuff is released online. Whereas in Mando Season 3, the audio description track, the scripts there, they were narrating the cast and the crew. And now they took that away. Guys, bring it back. I love having the credits narrated. I think it's neat. So the crew of Ahsoka's shuttle, they have to go planet side. They're in very bad shape, even though they did get to manage to get the ship up and running again. And who should save the day but the Purrgil? So I like seeing these wondrous creatures from Star Wars Rebels and that Mandalorian Season 3 cameo. I like how they use the mass of these creatures to avoid the fighters. I was kind of hoping to see some of the Purrgil just rip up the little fighters, but no go there. I'm glad none of the Purrgil got hit. And so we do get to see the ship landing. And I like that we find out that the Purrgil were in the distant past. The Jedi knew of them. And apparently no one had seen them for a while. Hu Yang doesn't even know that they were witnessed by Ahsoka and Sabine because he hadn't seen them. He was shut down. And he's like, oh, wow, you guys saw him? Well, when did that happen? That was a comical little scene. And I can't wait to see the next episode because I think we're going to see our heroes being hunted throughout the episode. We might get to see some great ground action. We get to see Baylan at the end of the episode, and there are some interesting guards that leave this hinge, as the audio description track calls it, on Cetus. So they're going to go out into the jungle, the Red Forest, according to the audio description track, and they're going to go a-hunting. So a-hunting they will go. They didn't describe these guards. They did speak a little bit. They're speaking some alien language. I wonder who they are. The audio description track doesn't describe them at all. They're masked, and that's all I know. I can't wait to find out more about these guards that Baylan has dispatched. Of course, you have Shin and Marok, and they're probably going to be hunting for the crew as well. So next week is probably going to be a very tense episode, maybe with some more lightsaber action. Who knows what we're going to see? I give this one a 10 out of 10. For a 37-minute long episode, man, they just packed it in. And I've seen it 3 times. I'll probably go back and watch it a 4th. I hope I covered everything. If not, I might have to do a little addendum video at some point before episode 4 premieres. I love this one, though. Absolutely had a fantastic time with it and can't wait for next week. I'll see you guys during whatever episode 4 is. I don't know the title yet. May the Force be with you. Until next time.